And no, Bill, I was not using a data cable for my Focusrite. I was using just power. Now I'm using
Power and data.
There you go.
Get my headphones on so I can hear something.
What do you know?
And oh, now I have air. Now I have to get the right mic set. Ah, got the right mic. How about headphones? Wrong headphones. Now I got the right ones. Okay. Should
Well,
be working.
it sounds decent. Like maybe you need to turn up the gain a little bit.
Okay, I'll turn up the gain a little
There you
That's
bit.
go.
good. That's
Perfect.
good.
All right. Well, I have been using the Focusrite box only plugged into a power source, not into a power and data. And it's been that way this whole time. Now I have it plugged into a power and data USB port.
Well, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now if I could just get my guitar to charge. Okay,
All
well,
right.
Eric is kind of here.
He had his camera on earlier.
Yeah.
Ah,
We were hoping Leo was going to join too.
oh, grumpy face. My goodness.
Yes. It's
And I
because
don't
I
think
love. Go ahead, Tim.
Turn that frown upside down.
It's my undying love of computers and Linux and Windows and just everything.
Majid's going to be joining us.
No.
Okay.
Um,
He's working on being high.
He's doing
He's
a good
doing a
job.
great
You have to
job.
give him credit.
should have been there, Moss.
Okay.
It was great.
What did I miss?
Majid's got a terrible toothache, so he took some
Ah.
pretty good drugs, and it was, I don't know, the show was, it was a good conversation, but it wasn't much of a coherent show. I'm gonna have a heck of a time making something.
Going through and removing all my swear words.
No, we're an explicit show. I don't mess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Good. I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, I don't worry about that. Let people be who they are.
I got a pretty good laugh last night on Linux Lugcast. If you check the general channel and mintCast crew, someone had left a comment on a video about Joe's beard being absurd.
Absurd? What do you mean by that?
And my response was, it's not absurd, it's glorious.
Uh,
I don't think I've ever heard someone call a beard absurd, but
I've heard it
When
called.
I grow up, I'm going to have a beard just like Joe's.
It's something to aspire to.
It is.
it is.
Actually, I seem to be growing two beards like Joe's.
Yeah. No, if you look down here, you can definitely tell that there's a little patchy.
I have a very serious cleft chin here, which is why this thing always looks like I'm parting it.
No, this stuff here just doesn't grow as fast.
Uh-huh. And I'm so tired. I taught yesterday. Had 4 classes, 3 of them very large, and all of them very loud. Yeah.
Mm.
And I just don't get enough sleep the night before. I just can't sleep when I know I have to get up in the morning.
Yeah, I do that too. What grade?
When I don't know I have to get up in the morning, I usually don't get to sleep until 3 or 4 anyhow. But when I'm getting up at 6, that doesn't work.
Well, you have to practice good sleep hygiene, and I'm not one to talk because I do it horribly. But yeah, I might have to work tomorrow, one of these days, so start going to bed at 10.
Doesn't work. I can go to bed at 10 and still be awake at 4. I might have had my eyes closed the whole time. I do put a blindfold on, but that's not the same thing as sleep, and I can't convince myself it is.
They make pills for that. You can be Majid 2.0.
Well, I've been trying melatonin and it doesn't do anything. Ambien is not a good drug for me.
Now, as you get older, if I remember right, you have to take more and more melatonin to make it effective. If I remember correctly. I have to look that
That's
up.
if you were taking melatonin to begin with. If you weren't, you shouldn't have to build up the levels like that. But okay. At any rate, no, Ambien is not a good drug for me.
Ambien isn't really a good drug for anyone, but it might help you get your sleep schedule on straight. Ambien is terrible for things like, well, especially if you're taking it long term, like blood pressure, cholesterol levels, shit like that. So, yeah.
I was found one morning with the refrigerator open, roast beef and cheese all over the place, and me sitting there with an Ambien glow going, wow, this is great shit. I wonder what I could get for it on the street. From someone who has never dealt in street drugs at all, had no clue what to do. Where did that even come from?
No, the most I take is like Tylenol PM. Either that or muscle relaxers.
Well, I can't take any NSAID because of my kidneys.
I should be avoiding any steroidal anti-inflammatories.
Well, the steroidal ones are fine by my doctors, but not fine by my body. I was on some corticosteroid from about the age of 12, and that really helped mess me up. My bone density is shrinking. That's why they pulled all my teeth instead of just give me a partial denture, because they said that the jaw did not have enough bone density to support implants.
See, that's when you start taking MK677 to help rebuild your bone density.
I have no idea.
It's a bodybuilder's drug. I don't recommend it.
Sounds more like a multi-fire rifle.
Some people call it a SARM, but it's not really a SARM, so I don't know the proper definition of it. But it does help build bone density.
Mm. Well, it might not be good for us septuagenarians. I haven't had a doctor recommend it yet, so.
No doctor ever will.
Oh.
It's not recommended for human usage.
Oh, okay. Well, doctors tend to recommend all kinds of things that damage me.
I am wrong. They do offer it. No, wait, that's human growth hormone. So, no, MK677 does not get offered to people. It's for research purposes only.
Well, I'm not very researchable.
Yeah, well, I don't actually take anything that's not prescribed by my doctor or an over-the-counter. So I'll joke about the stuff because I go out and learn about all the crap because, I'm weird and I like knowing things.
Well, other than the chocolate I get from Firecat, I don't either. Magic chocolate.
Hey, I'm not going to judge you on that, man. Enjoy it.
And it still doesn't help me sleep.
I actually saw a rather interesting video on CBD versus THC put out by Dr. Mike Israetel and one of his associates that actually knows something about supplementation and nootropics. And like the relaxing effect of CBD versus the getting high from THC, and he just recommended that he stated that the CBD actually was the things that provided the most well-being, while the THC just got you high.
Okay, well, the fun thing is they're like I think 32 different cannabinoids. There might be more than that. But the Delta 8 and Delta 10 are basically the same thing as THC, just it's the alkaloid connection is a different level. What they call THC is Delta 9 THC because it's connected at the 9th juncture of the chemical compound. But it can be at the 8th and 10th and has a different effect, but it still gets you high.
Holy 500 milligrams. Good.
It's not even mine. It's not mine.
Yeah, I know it's not. But
Yeah,
no,
I can't. So these are 10.
The stuff I get from Firecat are 40 milligrams, little bitty chocolate pieces. And I get like 200 of those pieces for $80.
So this is 100 milligrams. It's 10 milligrams per chew, and I eat like an eighth of one, maybe a quarter of one at a time. It's so strong.
I'm doing 1 or 2 40 milligram Delta 8s at night.
The only thing I really will go out of my way to get is the vapable CBD.
Mm.
It's just e-juice. You put it in your vaporizer and you vape it.
Yeah.
It doesn't get you high or anything, but I have noticed that it really does help a lot with swelling, especially in my hip that's all fucked up.
Yeah.
And just a general feeling better. Sometimes I'll use it as a pre-workout if I know that I've been really sore, and then I'll be able to go and hit the gym hard and feel good about it.
Gotcha. Well, I just, I have so many issues that to me it feels like a better choice to use something like that than to
as opposed
take yet
to
another
opioids. Yeah, no, I agree completely.
So it helps me with. Good.
I think you heard my comment when we were talking on the other show.
I get 4 bags like this. You can see the chocolate has a little leaf stamped in it.
Okay, so it's not homemade?
It is homemade, but he has special molds for it. So
Gotcha.
how broken up it is depends on the shipping. But
I go through the state, and I've got my card and all that stuff. So
yeah,
each one of these is 40 milligrams Delta 8.
CBD is supposed to be legal everywhere. There were some issues for a while here in the state of Texas where nobody was selling CBD because the cops would go and raid any place that was selling CBD under the assumption that they were also selling THC, and then they would take all their stock for testing and then run the place out of business because yes, they were selling CBD, but because they were testing, they had no revenue, they weren't allowed to sell anything, and all their stock got ruined.
Yeah, that was pretty common. Yeah, and that wasn't just Texas. That was pretty common in general, especially at first. So, I actually think it's a pretty poorly run business in general because they tend to, be flashy and make it look exciting and all the things that people don't want, these companies to do. They want it to be very medicinal, very low key, and they just can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Well, even with THC, I mean, most of your studies have shown that THC has a less detrimental effect than alcohol. Alcohol is killing people in this country all the time, and
nonetheless, I do not drive when I'm stoned. It just
you shouldn't drive when you're
you should, however,
mentally altered or whatever. But no, but some newer studies, some more recent studies with what the unregulated THC companies are doing and concentrating it so heavily, I mean, way beyond what the natural plant ever did, that is having, in some studies, a detrimental effect on people's brains and their ability to function over a long period of time. And that's understandable. I mean, when you're talking the difference between 10 milligrams and 500 milligrams.
Yeah. I could not even imagine how I would feel on that kind of a dose. I would probably just have to sleep because I couldn't handle it.
Well,
I hate being high.
I got a tube about that big, that big around, had 12 pieces of chocolate in it, and we paid $40 for that. And this stuff, I get 4 bags this size. Actually, I've eaten some, so 4 bags bigger than this for $80, and I'm happy.
Yeah. And mine, I mean, if you were, it depends on how much you use. I mean, again, I use so little that it takes me literally 4 or 5 months to go through a bag. So
Okay.
even though and it's only, a lot of times they're having sales. So, one of those is maybe $20. So it's such a minor expense, considering the value I get from it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like you, Joe, I really
Unfortunately,
don't like, go ahead. Sorry.
I was stepping on your tongue, Eric. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with Joe. I really don't like that feeling of being, of anything, whether it's alcohol or, anything. I just don't like too much of anything. It just feels wrong. I like to be clear. So,
Well, I used to agree with that, but I don't need my brains anymore. I'm too old.
You're a teacher.
Well, I am a babysitter. As long as I'm not stoned at school. Now they do drug testing, and they tend to pop it on you. But if you get any advance notice, 2 or 3 days off of this stuff will not show up in most drug tests.
it's funny though how they regulate. I don't know. It's still a very strange gray area, and I don't know that I agree with wide open recreational. Like, I still think from a medicinal standpoint, I agree with it. I think it helps people. But it's hard to argue that states make a lot of money off of it. So I don't know.
I own 5 stocks of pot stocks, and a 6th one that basically leases warehouses back to pot growers. They basically, they were trying to get into it by themselves, and they can't move any money legally.
We
And
bought
so
Canopy when they started, because Canopy seemed to be like a really together company, and none of them have done well because
they are now.
the restriction. Well,
Out of 5 stocks, only 2 of them are below what I paid for them right now.
Oh, okay. You picked better than we did.
No, I just hung on to it longer than you did. The last 3 weeks, we have made like $600 on our paltry $2,800
Wow,
investment.
that's a hell of a return.
The last 3 weeks, it's just gone shoom. And I should never have sold my Stellantis stock, because when I went back to buy it, it was more than twice what I paid for it before.
Yeah, I think you're probably also going to see those type of stocks going up as the regulations, get more refined, because I don't expect it to be unregulated, but the legality will eventually be there. I mean, it's already, has it been reclassed yet? I know that they
No.
pardoned the nonviolent ones,
Yeah, no,
nonviolent offenders.
It's still category
well,
1.
Biden pardoned the federal ones, but
The federal ones, that's all he can do.
There weren't that many of those.
Right. He pardoned the federal ones in the hopes that the states would follow suit and start pardoning the nonviolent state offenders.
And I know that Washington, and I think, I know that Washington has pardoned their nonviolent offenders. But I thought there was another state that did that, and I'm losing it. So, no, I am not stoned. I wish I were. The thing is, as a pain reliever, it gets rid of the aches in my knees and my ankles, but it doesn't touch any of my other pain. It's just, and I
The
can't.
CBD helps with swelling.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what it is.
Much better than ibuprofen, and a lot easier on your liver and kidneys.
Well, considering I have kidneys that are already very badly damaged, thanks to my wonderful doctors who diagnosed me with something I didn't have and gave me a drug for treatment that would wipe out my kidneys. Yeah. I'm not really happy. There's a younger trans woman on Mastodon that I've been having quite the conversation with, and she's already had the problems with doctors that I had. That at 71 I can complain because I know what's wrong with me and I know what caused all of it. And they had me on some psych drug or other from the age of 12 until I took myself off the drugs just before my 51st birthday.
Oof.
And I didn't do it perfectly right, but I did taper it to the best of my knowledge. It just turned out that some of the drugs needed a lot more tapering, and you can't taper a capsule.
Okay, so we know what the topic is for the next show.
Drugs.
We do?
No, it's going to be me setting up the pie hole and wire guard on an x86 system to take the place of my Pi Zero W.
While on drugs.
I told you I don't like drugs. Well, but yes, I am on a daily dose of testosterone. So yeah, I will be on drugs.
Yeah, I get a shot every 3 weeks. They want me to do it every 2 weeks, but when I do that, then my hematocrit gets out of whack and they have to take me off for a few months.
Oh, the testosterone?
Yeah.
I get it every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
God, everybody's on drugs here.
They wanted to do 2 milliliters every 2 weeks, and I said, nope, you're not going above 1 milliliter, and I'm not coming in more often than 3 weeks. And my levels come out just fine on the tests, thank you. And they're not
Honestly,
anything anyhow.
I'm taking my dosage every day at the correct times, and I'm applying it just the way they say, and my numbers are still tanked.
Going to have to go to injections, huh?
I don't know. I got to talk to my doctor because he doesn't like putting people on injections, mostly for the same reason that I never wanted to take the injections, because there's always, I mean, if you're doing it, even weekly, and I would probably want to split it up to twice a week just to maintain the levels. If you're doing it, you're still, putting a needle in your body a couple of times a month. Eventually you're going to get some kind of infection at the injection site, and that's always a concern. Even if you're taking care of it properly, eventually that's what's going to happen. Plus, if I remember right, the injections can have a heavier effect, and you guys would know more about this than I would because you actually get the injections. It has a heavier effect on cholesterol levels.
Yeah, well, that, like I say, when my hematocrit gets out of whack, they have to take me off for a few months.
When your HCl gets low?
Not my HCl, it's my hematocrit.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is either, but it's the one that you look at when they try and take me off of it.
Like, I think I need to convince my doctor to send me to a proper endocrinologist instead of a general practitioner. I mean, I love my VA doc, but send me to a specialist for this.
Looking up hematocrit.
Oh, here we are just talking about drugs the whole time.
Absolutely. Well, drugs are just like processors.
And my biweekly is going to be a little packed to this show too, and then the innards is basically going to be an extension of my biweekly.
Okay, hematocrit tests the percentage of red blood cells in your blood.
Ah. So when your red blood cells get low.
Yeah. Or high.
Oh. And I'm also, because my energy levels have been caloric intake, so I'm sitting in the 3,200 range. for my caloric intake, and that's actually kind of hard for me to get to. But we'll see how it affects my weight and see if it helps my energy levels at all.
High
Yeah,
hematocrit levels increase your risk of developing cardiovascular disease
Hmm.
and also tend to cause dehydration or are caused by dehydration. One or the other, they don't seem to be. Anyhow, adults who are male at birth should be between 41 to 50% red blood cells as a percentage of your total blood. If you're below level, you're anemic, but if you're above level, then you've got a lot of other problems, possible leukemia.
Heart clots or blood clots.
Yeah, lots of fun things. Anyhow,
Which is what my dad had, was blood clots.
So there we go. So we're talking about setting up a pie hole.
Well, I'm setting up a DNS sinkhole, but I'm doing it on an x86 system.
32-bit?
64.
Oh, okay. Usually when people just say x86, they mean the 32-bit.
x86 64. It's a 64-bit. Little gigabit bricks machine.
Oh, you're saying as opposed to a ARM processor.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's going to be my pie hole when I'm done with it. And just some of the trials and tribulations along the way, getting that set up. The mistakes I made a lot of them. I just got to remember them when I'm writing it up.
This is what Joe did. Don't do this.
Don't do it this way. Now, surprisingly, the Pi-hole script that is out there in the wild that you use on the Raspberry Pi works just fine on Linux Mint. But the script for the Pi VPN does not. It'll work on Ubuntu. It will not work on Linux Mint.
Do you know why?
Yes.
And?
Well, with the Pi-hole script, you're able to pass a parameter that bypasses the OS check, and it'll just install the 64-bit version.
Oh.
With the Pi VPN, it doesn't have the ability to pass that parameter to skip the check.
Eric, that picture you posted does not even show Joe's beard.
I know, but the comment was on the video, and that's the thumbnail for the video. So you have to imagine.
I have an awesome beard. Yep. Uh-huh.
You have to imagine how absurd the beard is. Use your unlimited capacity of imagination for absurdist beard, absurdist facial hair. Sounds like a coffee table book. Absurd hipster facial hair. Nah, Joe's not a hipster. He's a rocker.
Well, I do not know whether I will be on the show this time, but I will definitely get the news up.
Thank you.
I've been given permission to potentially increase Full Circle Weekly News to 15 minutes if needed.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I've noticed that you've gone over a little bit a couple times.
I have?
I thought so.
Oh, I think I've kept it to like 9:58, 9:59 most of
did
the
you?
time.
Okay. It just felt, maybe it was because they're not always 10 minutes, and when you actually hit that, it feels longer.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to strive for 15 minutes, but the way it has been, like this last episode, I was given 17 articles. I usually get between 12 and 14, but it gets me 17 articles, 18 articles, and some of them are long.
Yeah.
And so I basically have to decide what is a fact and what isn't, and edit things so that I am down to minimum packs at best in some cases.
Yeah.
This last one I hacked and hacked and hacked, and then I recorded it. I barely got to 9 minutes on it. And I'm going, what? I should have been at least 9.5 with all the words I had. I just must
Honestly,
have
for something like that, and I know it's not really practical, but you could probably do something like every day, every other day, and fill 5 minutes because there's enough stuff that happens. And if you were to give,
That's not the workflow here, Eric.
no, I get that. I'm just saying, like, if you were to be more verbose and give more detail, you probably could. I'm just saying somebody could. It's not maybe not full circle, but
Yeah.
But I like full circle because it's a teaser. Like if something actually piques my curiosity, then I will go and look up and do more, discovery on it versus other shows where I feel like sometimes they're just too long-winded and it's kind of
They'll
like
deep dive into something that you don't give a shit about.
I'm not going to be doing any deep
Yeah.
dives. And there have been a couple times that Eric actually tried to get me to do a quick tutorial on something. I said, nope, that's not my job. I'm not going to read out sudo apt install blah blah blah.
that never works. I don't,
You know
who
what?
listens to that and it's like, oh, I
I love
remember the exact command.
I love it. I love doing that.
Well, the first
Mostly
thing
because people complain.
the first thing I cut is how long it has been since the last version. If you care, you can go look it up.
Yeah.
Probably the only people who care are the people who are still running the last version.
I always full circle is interesting because yes, there's a lot of notable stuff, but I also find out about a lot of things that I wasn't aware of, which is what,
Hell, I don't
at
know
least
half of what I'm talking about. I just know how to pronounce the words. Yeah.
right. Yeah. We could be like, what is it? That stupid movie, where he'll read whatever you put in front of him on the teleprompter. I can't remember now.
I don't remember that.
That was
Bruce Almighty.
Yep.
Yeah, Bruce Almighty. Where he'll read whatever you put on there, and
I'm a sissy girl.
yes, me like a duda cha cha.
Oh God, what was that other one?
What's that?
There was another one with
Heaven Almighty.
a newscaster.
Oh, news. Yeah, what was that? The
Heaven
stupid one
Almighty.
where they're like in the 70s. No, the one with what's that idiot? The comedian.
News radio?
No, it's where it's the four of them
Anchorman.
and the
Anchorman.
Anchorman.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I love scotch.
Well, I wish I was a good newsreader, but I'm not. If
Burgundy.
I was a
That
newsreader,
was
I could just turn on the
Ron
mic,
Burgundy.
read the script, and I'm done. And
Well,
that's
I'd
not what
say you've
happened.
got that nailed, Moss.
Yeah.
Oh no, I
'Cause-
just know how to cut the bad stuff out.
I
Eric,
listened
you were
to
talking
it.
about that just today. How do you cut out the flubs? And I just have gotten good at it. You hit it right on the nose, and
There is
no one
not
even
enough
hears a
hours
cut.
in a day for me to do it quickly and clearly.
Well,
and
It takes me less than an hour from the time I start recording to the time the show is sent to Ronnie.
well, then
So-
I'd say you've got your niche, because that would be an all-day affair for me.
Usually the recording takes 12 or 13 minutes, and then I have to go through and chop out all the silences and put in the bumpers and put in the intro and outro and line everything up. And then I go cut out all my breaths, which takes a good bit of time. I don't cut out all the spaces, just the breaths.
Mhm.
I try and leave the spaces there so you can probably tell I took a breath there, but you don't hear it. And that was something Leo told me to do, and I overdid it at first. Those
Yeah, it
first
makes it sound
couple episodes
unnatural.
I did sounded like
Yeah.
people were saying I was an AI voice or something. I'm going, no,
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah, actually, I had a good system set up where I forget what the filter is, excuse me, but you cut out a lot of it and then you bring in a certain percentage of it so that there is like a natural sound to it. Because if you just completely kill all the background noise, all of the, someone will have a really heavy gate on their mic and it just sounds weird. Yeah. So if you let like 15% of it back in, it's just perceptible enough that it doesn't sound unnatural.
Well,
yeah, but there was a certain filter. There was a certain filter that did that automatically for you.
I know Tony always used truncate silence, but he sometimes got carried away with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to rely on any one of those to be completely accurate. The only one I can really use, so remove noise, so you're cleaning up the background noise from the beginning. And then for myself, I use a de-esser because I have really sharp S's sometimes. And that'll just take those certain frequencies out so it doesn't really harm anything else. It's not destructive. But if you try to use like...
Okay.
What?
I'm sorry. I thought I had it muted. Daughter was talking to me.
That's okay. Yeah, I was trying today, just like what you were saying, I was trying to reduce specifically the breath sounds without either completely silencing them or also affecting other parts of speech.
Right.
And
it can cut out the breath. If there's unbreath around it, I leave it there.
Yeah, I hear you. Because then that still leaves some of that background noise to come through too. So
first thing I do is 2 rounds of silence of reduce noise.
Mm-hmm. One isn't enough. I agree.
I do 2 rounds of that. I do normalize. I do if the waveform looks small, I do amplify 2.0, and I do a bass and treble most of the time, and then I hit the compressor, and then I start plugging in the bumpers and other music.
Gotcha.
I don't think my bumpers need to be compressed.
So unfortunately, Dale, in Discord, when we were recording, he was on the right mic on his SM7B, but his recording in Audacity was from like either his webcam or built-in mic, and it was so over modulated, just like blown out. And I've done my best I had to run background removal like 6 times to get,
oh my,
and it's okay. It's not like you can't understand it, but it's certainly not as good as the warm quality of a, good microphone. So, oh well. And we didn't figure it out until it's way too late. So
admit it, you missed me.
Hey, it is always the case that more is merrier, and I enjoy listening to the show as much as I do participating. So, when you're reviewing something or Dale's reviewing something, I enjoy hearing your experiences as much as I do sharing mine. So, yeah, of course we miss you.
Okay. Our numbers are still way up there, by the way. I need to go look at archive. I did it at school yesterday, and I can't get to archive. They have that site blocked.
That's subversivearchive.org site.
Even without archive, we're still averaging just a hair under 1,000 an episode.
That's great.
Yeah, we never expected that. Tony and I, we never expected that. Tony would have been happy with 100. I was happy when we hit 300 and got excited at 400, but I never thought 1,000. It's just too much of a niche podcast.
Though, I think if someone's really trying to get information on a specific distro, there's definitely a value there. And when I was making YouTube videos, I don't know, I never really went too deep into reviews because it was always, everybody does reviews. I would pick specific things that were shorter, but that's a much different, I don't know. I like longer podcasts. I like putting on a podcast. Like, yes, Full Circle is great because it's quick and you get a lot of information in a short time frame. But I also do like a podcast that has enough time to breathe and, go into detail. So that's what attracted me to Distro Hoppers in the first place. That's why I started listening to it. And I like the delivery and the depth of detail, and so my next one's going to be probably on Arch that I've been running, and I doubt it will be very favorable. It boots up fast. I guess that's one good thing. So inevitably, when I have to reboot it, it doesn't take long.
Okay, guys. Well, I don't see what else we got going on here. Do we have any
No,
listeners today?
Oh, I didn't even check. I don't know. The
Majid is
Federales.
in there. Mark and met her.
Right? The feds, the DEA.
That's right. The feds are in there.
Cool.
Jid was cracking me up.
Yeah, he was.
All mentions of drugs are completely satirical on this show.
Yeah.
That's right. Fictitious.
Yeah, he was totally not stoned out of his gourd.
God.
You know what, though? I sympathize. Tooth pain is probably, out of anything I've had to deal with, it is just, you can't escape it. And that radiating point where there can be one little spot, but now your whole jaw hurts. You know, like, ugh.
This is
Awful.
actually where my hate for codeine stems from. 1 year, right around Christmas, I was working at 7-Eleven at the time. So it was like the week leading up to Christmas. No dentist is open, and I have an abscess tooth, and it's just, my face is swelling, and I cannot get into it. I'm calling dentists, and no one is in. I basically spent a week messed up on codeine, and just the way it was tearing up my stomach. And I could barely think straight between the pain and being, high on codeine and just wanting to puke and still having to work because I worked at 7-Eleven. And, it was either work or not have a house. So
I'm sure dealing with the public was extra special.
Oh, extra special.
Let me point you to our complaint department.
3rd floor.
Yeah, exactly. I was just say exactly.
But yeah, no, working at 7-Eleven had its benefits. I once had a customer just bust up laughing because he said he had never heard "Have a nice day" sound so much like "F you."
Love it. We do this thing, my wife and I, where it's like, so good for you, GFY, if you think of what else that could mean, go F yourself. So we'll substitute that every now and then. If we're talking to someone who's being obnoxious, good for you. And then she and I look at each other and crack up.
Well, bless your heart.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody in the South knows what that means. Okay, Moss?
Right. Bless your heart. What did you call me?
Elected idiot.
I'll tell you the one that gets me in the mood to fight. Well, I'll be praying.
That's
for you.
nice.
I'll be praying.
Oh, yes,
for you.
I'll be praying for
I'm
you.
happy for you.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I don't get how come thoughts and prayers don't work on the southern border if they're supposed to work so well in our schools.
Maybe it's conditional. I don't know.
I have a problem. I think there's a Mandela effect with the prayers in school thing because I was in school in the 70s and there was no prayer in school. That's just never been a thing.
And not in the 80s either.
No. So
or the 90s.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about this on here, but
yeah, probably not. Yeah. When you talk about this kind of stuff, you make special friends.
That's one way to put it.
Yes. Yeah. Very enthusiastic special friends.
Well, I would welcome a logical argument to this, though. Don't just come at me with
that doesn't happen.
With the usual.
You look. Here's your problem. You're mixing logic and its antithesis Religion.
Dogma.
Antithesis.
Antithesis. My bad. I knew I said it wrong when I said it. I apologize.
1043.
But I think religion has given way to dogma. If not recently, then a very, very long time ago. And that's the problem. That's why logic cannot be applied to any conversation, because there's no evidence can be provided for or against, and that negates.
Well, that's the whole point of faith. But yeah,
I mean,
faith and logic are two opposites.
Well, I just don't think that you can tell someone else what to believe, and I don't think they can tell you what to believe. That's just,
and that's where
that's kind of,
that's where it gets, really.
Which is why I don't have a problem with religion. I have a problem with organized religion.
Yeah. The problem is that there's this stigma that religious people are by that virtue alone good people, and you're not good people if you're not religious people.
I wouldn't necessarily say good people. I would say better people. But they think that they're better than the people that don't have religion.
Well, I mean,
because they have religion.
To the point
I think
where
a lot of it just comes down to just misunderstanding and intolerance,
And
I just, that's when you talk about, prayer in schools or whatever back in the day, like, it wasn't that none of those things existed. It's just that we all had enough respect for each other to not, push on each other about those types of things. Like, if you are, believe something or have faith in something, like, you should be able to do that without anyone, mocking you or making you feel bad about it, and vice versa. If someone doesn't believe what you believe, then you don't have the right to do that to them. So, and I felt like that's what society was. Everybody kind of understood that we all have our own, journey through the world, and none of us was right.
But even then, there was still some separation there, because that was based on Christianity and denomination. Everybody considered the separate denominations still viable so long as it was still Christianity. But when you started getting into other religions, then you started having a lot of those biases.
Oh, goody.
I'm sorry, whenever there's a conversation about faith or belief or this, I always feel like I have to put my 2 pence in, even in my slightly zoned out state.
Well,
We
I was gonna say,
appreciate
today
that.
is the right day for that.
We need video, Majid. Come on.
No,
Something tells me he's not sitting at his desk anymore.
no, I'm lying down in a cool room.
Ooh,
There
that
you
sounds
go.
good.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective
Yeah.
on this particular topic.
Religion is the last refuge of the scoundrel, and conspiracy theories are the last refuge of the idiot. Unfortunately, these are human traits which transcend all religious and ethnic boundaries. And so there are people who will go so far as to say, look, the only thing that can heal is prayer. And a lot of it depends on the way that you understand the world. Without wanting to get too philosophical or theological, especially in my slightly done state, there's a concept in Muslim thought that says that the doer of all things is ultimately God. So, you have a knife, the knife cuts the butter. It's not the knife cutting the butter, it's God cutting the butter. Okay? Now, this might sound weird, as it did the first time I heard it, but it was a way of conceptualizing the ideas of miracles. Miracles that, if you believe in Near Eastern books of some description, Bibles and Qurans and stuff like that, that place is full of miracles. So one of the ways of understanding it was that, yes, Abraham was thrown into the fire, but the fire would only burn if God let it burn, and hence he didn't burn. Etc. 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 In those situations, though, it's literally God doing something and telling you what He's done. If you assume those documents to be, if you're to reliable, and I know that's another argument entirely. But when random Abdullah here decides that he's not going to have studied a bit for his exams, but by sitting and praying all night, and he's going to somehow get 100%, that's just not going to happen, because that would be a miracle, and only God does miracles. You having just doing that doesn't mean anything. And then there's another story about how before you trust in God, you tie your camel. You do what's your bit, and then you leave God to do His bit. I don't know if that necessarily gives any clarity to what you guys were discussing, but it makes me realize that if someone truly believes, if somebody truly believes in something, then they will put their 100% effort and then say, okay, whether it's actually going to happen or not, I'm going to leave that bit to God. But the kind of, oh, who won't think of the children while you're sat at home watching Family Guy isn't really going to get you anywhere in anything, in any situation.
I honestly wonder. Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe I should take these painkillers more often. They do make me sound sensible.
Well, see, that's the problem. You think they make you sound more sensible.
Yeah.
Nah, you actually sound fine.
No, I got what you were saying there.
What I was going to say was, I wonder if, so, my upbringing was, there was no question, like I was thrown into Catholic Church and went through all of the, gesticulations of the different rites of passage and, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not like I had any real choice in it up until I became a teenager, where I finally said, look, you've pushed this on me. Right. And I remember having a very poignant conversation with my grandfather, who was devoutly religious, firm belief, like there was nothing you could have done to shake his belief, which I respect. But at the same time, there was nothing he could do to establish my belief, and I'd gone through all of the, like I said, the foundational aspects of the church and belonging and all of that stuff, but I never felt it. I never had a true belief or feeling. And I just told him, like, I understand that you would like me to have that. And I understand that it brings you peace and that it's been such a positive aspect of your life, but you can't make me have faith in something. I have to have that faith for myself. And so I wonder if, had I not had that experience as a young person where I felt put upon, like it was forced on me, if I had come to it of my own volition, of my own curiosity, would that have made any difference? And I don't know. And I think maybe that's why, more modern evangelical Christianity is so popular, is because I think it tends to speak more to adults and, and their, journey through life or whatever, the things maybe they're looking for or trying to make sense of. And that's why it's so appealing versus, the older religions where you're sort of like born into it,
It's interesting point you say about the televangelists and all this kind of stuff. I've always been under the impression that the people that are their constituents, if you want to put it that way, and the people that readily follow their message are what I would call impressionable adults. And I'm generally not saying this out of any state of arrogance, but what I mean is there's a certain type of person who has turned up to, say, this mega church with, I don't know, I don't even know the names of these guys anymore, but Benny Hinn, I remember hearing as a name years ago. Whatever, these big guys and their mega churches, and we've got all the sparkles and everything like that. And if you're the type of person that's gone there, you've gone there looking for something. You've gone there looking for a meaning, a community, like-minded people, social aspects. You've gone there for a specific reason. You're not necessarily going to get the guy that has got serious doubts as to, what is the world? What is my place in the world? Where am I going? This, that, and the other. Those things are not. As someone who in the past did try very badly to do some kind of, I suppose we won't call it missionary work, but Muslim type, we call it da'i work, going around handing leaflets out and stuff like this. And I learned that the vast majority of people are not interested. But the ones who are interested aren't interested by you taking that sheet and then going away. They want to come and sit and have a conversation with you. And actually, look, these are my theories, these are my thoughts. What do you guys say about it? Or how would my life work in this scenario? Blah, blah, blah.
Do you have Mormons in the UK?
Yes, we do.
Probably.
We actually good
Yes,
friends
they
who are
do.
Mormons.
Yes, they are
Okay.
international.
So I have always been fascinated and kind of impressed by that pilgrimage thing they have to do as, young adults.
Hmm.
And I remember having a really good conversation one day with, because they come in pairs and just
Not
standing and
pilgrimage,
talking.
it's missionary work.
Well, so I've always been impressed by the fact that they do it. And like you're saying, Majid, I'm sure that 99% of the people that they interact with have zero interest. And that has to be somewhat difficult, just dealing with that, but then being young, and also just the idea that you're, trying to relate to someone on a certain level. I don't know. I had a really good conversation one day with a couple of young guys about like what motivates you to do it, and what are you hoping to accomplish, and I can see the value of that kind of a community, that kind of a structure. I think they get a lot out of doing that, and really being fulfilled in that work that they do. And I mean, certainly not easy to go in the middle of summer in Florida, in the heat and door to door and shirt and tie and all the rest of it. But anyway,
Well, to me, the Mormon Church is just a big blow up of some of these mega churches, because they are sitting on literally billions of dollars that is not going into the mission field. They keep telling people that their tithes are going to the mission field, that we're going to be helping people out, blah blah blah, this and that and the other, and it just doesn't. They sit on it, and that's.
Well, all religions are business. All religions are business as well. They
are lying to their people what they are doing with their tithes.
Yeah, that I agree. It's and obviously, unfortunately, it then pulls the rug underneath their own claims, because they are partaking in things that they themselves find to be abhorrent.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly. The what I was just kind of trying to say is that everybody, I find, is on a journey, and that sometimes those journeys have left turns, right turns. Sometimes they will turn towards God. Sometimes they don't turn towards God. Sometimes they turn towards particular faith or whatever. I think the fact that there's nutters, the fact that there's bad people, the fact that there's embezzlers, the fact that there's sexual abusers, and all of that is very bad. But unfortunately, it's a human problem. It's just come out in that scenario within those kinds of religious spheres. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of put my little two
Yeah.
pence in about that. That
You can usually get me talking about religion easily since I've got a few doctorates in the subject and stuff like that. I've been all over the map spiritually, just trying to see what works. And really, most of it just doesn't work. It's a matter of control, not a matter of spirituality. And I'm sorry, I've become a functional atheist, although not actually one. If
Yeah.
there is a deity, that deity is greater than the universe, and if the deity is greater than the universe, then how the heck is he going to focus down to little old me? We have no idea how vast the universe is here, people.
What I don't like is the idea that if you are going to call yourself Christian, you have to be bought into the doctrine or some kind of doctrine. And then if you're
Well, the
bought
problem
into
is
that
they don't even
doctrine,
do that anymore.
you have to be willing to argue that doctrine against all the other doctrines. It's kind of, this plays into politics too, where you can't call yourself Republican unless you're completely bought into all of the things that Republicans
Yeah.
believe and more importantly don't believe in.
People are going up to their ministers after the sermon and saying, "Why did you put all those left-wing talking points into your sermon?" And they don't realize that he was quoting directly from Jesus, if that was a direct quote.
I guess it's never been okay to have a dissenting opinion. I guess, I don't know.
It's never been okay to even be a little bit different. If you don't completely fit into what that congregation thinks you should be. I've been autistic my whole life. I've been shunned and left out of so many things because I was weird or different. Now, if Jesus accepts me the way I am, how come you people don't?
I choose to believe in God, but I also choose to I also choose to believe that nobody has got it right yet. That and that's okay. Well, it's not okay. What I mean is that we don't have to get it right. We just have to accept each other's interpretation. But that is impossible because religion is one of those things that has separated more people than anything else on earth since day one.
Actually, Bill, in my studies, I have actually found 3 groups that did get it right, but then 2 or 3 centuries later, they had completely forgotten what they had gotten.
Well, because you cannot control people with a doctrine that says that there's a lot of ways to interpret this. You can only control people by convincing them that if they don't behave in this certain way, then their immortal soul is at stake. So
that's not control. That's extortion.
But I mean, it's
if you don't follow me, then you're going to hell. Well, who's sending me to hell? Well, I am, of course, because you're not following me.
It has nothing to do with the topic, but I got to run, guys.
Yeah, me too. Let's call it a day.
All right.
It's a day.